Aisha's story began in Englewood, a neighborhood on Chicago's South Side where opportunities were scarce and expectations were often low. Born to a single mother, LaToya, who worked long hours as a nurse's aide, Aisha grew up in a small apartment filled with books her mother scavenged from library sales. LaToya, a firm believer in education, instilled in Aisha a drive to excel. By age 6, Aisha was reading legal thrillers she found on her mother's shelf, fascinated by the sharp-witted attorneys who turned cases around with their words. She didn't just read for fun. She studied, memorizing legal terms and asking her mother questions about justice and fairness. LaToya, exhausted but proud, encouraged her daughter's curiosity, even when she couldn't afford tutors or extracurriculars. Aisha's brilliance shone early. In elementary school, her teachers noticed her knack for debate, her ability to argue points with logic far beyond her years. By middle school, she was winning essay contests and volunteering at a local community center, where she helped neighbors navigate legal forms. Her high school years were a whirlwind of activity. She joined the debate team, interned at a legal aid clinic, and took advanced placement courses while working part-time at a grocery store. At 16, she set her sights on law school, an ambitious goal for a black girl from Englewood. Her guidance counselor warned her it was a long shot, but Aisha ignored the doubt. She applied for scholarships and was accepted to a pre-law program at the University of Chicago, graduating high school a year early. At 17, Aisha enrolled in a combined bachelor's and law degree program, one of the youngest students in her class. She faced skepticism from peers and professors who assumed she'd struggle to keep up. Instead, she thrived, excelling in constitutional law and criminal procedure. She devoured case law, spent late nights in the library, and honed her skills in mock trials. By 20, she had earned her bachelor's degree and was deep into her law school coursework. At 21, she passed the Illinois bar exam on her first try, becoming one of the youngest licensed attorneys in the state. Her mother cried at the swearing-in ceremony, clutching a photo of Aisha's late grandmother, who had always believed in her. Despite her credentials, Aisha faced constant underestimation. Her youth and appearance, petite with a youthful face, led people to assume she was still in high school. As a black woman, she also encountered biases that questioned her competence. She took it in stride, using the assumptions to her advantage. She started her own small legal practice, taking on pro bono cases for low-income clients while building a reputation for sharp legal arguments. But Aisha wanted to do more than practice law. She wanted to challenge a system that too often dismissed people like her. That's what led her to the courtroom that day, appearing as a defendant in a case she had carefully chosen. The traffic violation was minor, a disputed red light ticket from a camera in downtown Chicago. Aisha had received the ticket months earlier, but she suspected the city's ticketing system was unfairly targeting low-income drivers. She decided to contest it herself, not as an attorney, but as a defendant, to test the system from the inside. She dressed down for the hearing, wearing plain clothes to blend in, and didn't disclose her legal status when she checked in. Her plan was simple. Observe how the court treated an ordinary young black woman, then reveal her expertise if the moment called for it. The courtroom was packed with defendants, most facing similar minor infractions. Judge Robert Callahan, a veteran with a reputation for efficiency, presided over the docket. He was known for moving cases quickly, often with a sharp tongue for those he deemed unprepared. When Aisha's case was called, she stepped forward, her ticket in hand. The judge glanced at her, his expression skeptical. "You're here for a red light ticket?" he asked, his tone implying she was wasting his time. Aisha nodded, explaining that she believed the ticket was issued in error due to a malfunctioning camera. Callahan cut her off, chuckling. "You think you know better than the system, young lady? Were you still in high school?" The courtroom tittered, and the bailiff smirked. Aisha didn't react, keeping her voice even. "I have evidence, Your Honor," she said, producing a folder with photos of the intersection and a report on the camera's history of errors. Callahan raised an eyebrow, clearly surprised she'd come prepared. He took the folder, but waved it off. "This isn't a debate club," he said. "You expect me to believe you did all this research yourself?" The prosecutor, a young attorney named Mark Evans, chimed in, suggesting Aisha was making excuses to dodge the fine. The room seemed to close in, the weight of their assumptions palpable. Aisha saw her moment. "With all due respect, Your Honor," she said, her voice clear and firm, "I'm not just defendant. I'm a licensed attorney, admitted to the Illinois bar, and I've studied the legal standards for traffic camera enforcement." The courtroom went quiet. Callahan's smirk vanished, replaced by a look of disbelief. Evans fumbled with his notes, caught off guard. Aisha continued, citing Illinois statutes on traffic camera reliability and a recent case that questioned their accuracy. She laid out her argument with precision. The camera at the intersection had a documented history of malfunctions, and the ticket lacked sufficient evidence to hold up under scrutiny. Callahan leaned forward, his skepticism giving way to curiosity. "You're telling me you're an attorney?" he asked. Aisha nodded, pulling out her bar card and sliding across the table. The bailiff verified it, and whispers spread through the courtroom. Callahan, visibly rattled, asked her to explain her qualifications. Aisha recounted her education and bar admission, keeping her tone professional but direct. She then pivoted back to the case, arguing that the city's reliance on faulty cameras disproportionately harmed marginalized communities, including black drivers like herself. She cited data showing that tickets were issued at higher rates in low-income neighborhoods, a point that hit home in the Chicago courtroom. The judge, now fully engaged, asked Aisha to elaborate on the case law she'd mentioned. She did, walking him through the precedent with the ease of a seasoned litigator. She explained how the camera's error rate violated due process standards, rendering the ticket invalid. Evans, scrambling to respond, argued that the ticket was still enforceable, but his points lacked the depth of Aisha's analysis. Callahan, clearly impressed, asked Aisha if she had anything else to add. She took the opportunity to make a broader point. "This isn't just about one ticket, Your Honor. It's about a system that assumes people like me don't know their rights. I'm here to show that we do." The room was silent, the weight of her words sinking in. Callahan, no longer dismissive, took a moment to review her evidence. He asked the prosecutor for a rebuttal, but Evans could only repeat his earlier points, now sounding hollow. After a brief recess, Callahan returned with his ruling. He dismissed Aisha's ticket, citing insufficient evidence and commending her for her exceptional preparation. "I've been on this bench for 20 years, he said, "and I've rarely seen a defendant or an attorney present a case so thoroughly." The courtroom buzzed, and Aisha allowed herself a small smile. Word of Aisha's performance spread quickly. By the next day, local news outlets were covering the story, hailing her as a prodigy who had outwitted the system. Community activists reached out, asking her to speak at events about systemic bias in traffic enforcement. Aisha used the attention to grow her practice, taking on more cases challenging unfair policies. She also launched a free legal workshop in Englewood, teaching residents how to navigate the court system. Her mother, watching it all unfold, told anyone who would listen, "That's my daughter. She's been proving people wrong since she was 6. The courtroom moment wasn't just a victory for Aisha. It was a wake-up call for those who underestimated her. Judge Callahan, reflecting on the case, later admitted he'd learned not to judge a book by its cover. Aisha, meanwhile, continued her work, her bar card a quiet reminder of the power she carried. She had walked into that courtroom as a teen in the eyes of the judge, but she walked out as a force, her brilliance undeniable, her mission just beginning.